the Buffalo Bills squeak past the Los Angeles Chargers and keep their playoff hopes alive, controlling their own destiny. And the Sabres remain consistently inconsistent, as they have all season. All of this and more on this edition of the Buffalonian podcast. All right, let's go. We are back with the Buffalonian podcast. I'm Joe Cali. Hope you all had a happy holiday out there. And as always, I'm joined by none other than Dom Loss. Dom, before we jump in here, how was your holiday weekend?
Great. I won my fantasy championship in my family league.
There you go.
Advanced in the finals in our league, so fantasy was kind. The holidays, it was great to spend time with the fam. So
yeah,
happy to be back here with a Bills win and a very, very successful Bills, outside of the Bills game weekend as well. So
yes, yeah. I mean, fantasy was an interesting week as well. I showed you before the show. There's a tie that advanced me to the championship. Never before seen. Very interesting there. And yes, we are back with the Bills victory. And as mentioned in that intro, they do control their own destiny now. A lot of things went in their favor. So without further ado, though, let's take a look at this Bills win before we get into the Dom 5 and roll the highlights. So first, I think his name's Grape Davis. He shows up every few games and has an outstanding performance. So Josh Allen rolls out to the right looking for help, takes a shot down the field, catches Gabe Davis in stride. Davis shoves his way in, stays up while facing physical contact. So, you can't really ask for more than that. After he was kind of, quote unquote, left out the past few weeks, it's nice to see him getting involved again and doing Gabe Davis things when he's needed to do Gabe Davis things. So that was Gabe Davis's first touchdown right there. Not of the season, of course, but of that game. And listen, just a quick question here for you. Since Grape Davis has been the name, there's not been a lot of action for Grape. Was that a positive mark, you think, going forward here for the playoffs and the rest of the season?
I just think he's channeling his Sabres being consistently inconsistent.
Yeah, no better way to put that. All right, second highlight. Let's roll it. Josh Allen takes the ball, and he runs it himself right out to the right and up into the end zone. He flips it to what looks like a Bills fan there. But James Cook pulled off some coverage there, and Allen was able to slide out to the right and rush right into the end zone. Again, that's 11 games straight with a passing and rushing touchdown for the lad now. So he's still absolutely on fire. It's insane, honestly, to have a quarterback who's achieving that and doing it consistently, not like the Sabres being consistently inconsistent. But all right, next highlight, let's roll it. The Buffalo shove, the tush push, whatever it may be. Allen likes to go to the left. They found the sweet spot there. Allen goes in, another touchdown. And taking a look at that second half rushing touchdown right there was the quarterback's 50th in his 6-year career. And now he only trails O.J. Simpson for the second most in team history. So that's for a quarterback trailing one of the greatest running backs in team history, outside history aside, of course, but that's outstanding right there. So you can't really ask for more than that, and they end up outlasting the Chargers, running the clock down, and going from there. So it was a nail biter a little bit at the end there. I was up pumping my arms around watching the game, and it came down to it a little bit at the end there, but Tyler Bass nails one in at the end, and they call it quits on the Los Angeles Chargers. So, Dom, what do you think? What was your, before we get into the Dom 5, last minute of the game? When Khalil Shakir's touchdown, he was ruled down. What are you thinking? What's going through your head? Because we'll talk in a minute, but go ahead.
Just don't fumble.
Yeah.
No, just take care of the ball. I think they made the right decision and just I would have just flat out if you're gonna just run the ball, I would have flat out kneeled.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I guess you want to run the ball because there's potential. Maybe you get a run that obviously if they would have got down to one, they would have got a first down, then that would have basically, I wouldn't say sealed the game, but they still didn't make the kick, but they would have been able to take the clock down to 0-0s.
Yeah.
So I guess you want some of that potential, but at that point, I mean, I think you got to trust your kicker to make a 35-yard field goal. So I think I would have just personally knelt it at that point. But yeah, just don't fumble, make the kick through the uprights, and then they had 23 seconds. So
They did.
23 seconds from the 30. It was just don't let them get in, don't give up a big play in the middle of the field, and don't let them go out of bounds. And obviously Ed gets the big sack, and
yeah. Ed Oliver called out on betting on the Bills on Friday. He was my guy, I think I mentioned. So, he rode the horse off the field. You can't ask for anything more out of the defense there. McDermott did a good job calling that to stop that from going forward. But what do you say? You think it's time?
I do. For the down 5.
Waiting all weekend for the down 5. We got to make a jingle. We got to
Carrie
take
Underwood
that from Carrie Underwood.
Oh,
yeah.
God. All right, number 1, please. A dub is a dub is a dub. A win is a win is a win. Not the prettiest of wins. Same score that they lost to the Denver, 24-22. Just not the best performance. Obviously, you get a special teams fumble. Obviously, Josh of a poor interception.
Yeah.
The James Cook fumble when you're trying to get some momentum back. It was poor. I mean, drives that got killed by penalty. Starting out, trailing 10-0 on the road. We talked about on the betting on the Bills is that you don't beat yourself and don't have like a special teams gaffe and you'll dominate. And they had a special teams gaffe and they beat themselves a little bit. But at the end of the day, a win is a win. It doesn't matter really how. This isn't college football. It's the National Football League, and
yeah,
there's no style points. And just happy to get through that one with a win.
Yeah. Beating themselves, that was about there. 3 turnovers in a game. You should not be winning, but the Chargers. So at the end of the day, the Chargers out-chargered you. And they had a lot going for them. They were rallying around the coach. Easton Stick was having a great game. And the Bills, they shot themselves in the foot. They wanted to start fast. They started fast in the wrong way in the mistakes, and then they buttoned it up in the second half and did what they needed to do to get the win. So can't ask for anything more than that, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, well,
actually, you can ask for a lot more than that.
I would have wished it was a little bit easier than that, but on number 2.
As you said, a win is a win is a win. So.
There you go. The playoff odds are looking good. Obviously, got the result on Saturday with our boy George Pickens having a big game. That basically let the Bills know that they won the last 3 games. They were going to make the playoffs. Then everything else kind of fell their way, other than the only thing that kind of didn't go their way was the division. But literally every result other than, I guess, Baltimore. But, really good week. And now there's clinching scenarios for Week 17 to get in with 10. We talked about it. Again, on the Buffalonian, betting on the Bills is that, their odds of finishing 11 wins increased, but their odds of getting in the playoffs of 10 wins decreased a little bit last week. But This week, again, everything went their way, and now they have a situation where they just need Pittsburgh and Cincinnati to drop another game and them to obviously win another game, and we're in. I mean, New England took out the Broncos. They're at 8 losses.
Yeah. That was a good game, too, to watch, honestly.
And one of the AFC South teams between Houston and Indianapolis are going to get knocked out with 8. So, again, just, can the AFC North lose a couple? Can Jacksonville maybe lose one? Can one of those other 2 teams lose one? We'll see. But, yeah, it was a good week to be a Buffalo Bills supporter, even outside of the Bills games.
Yeah, I mean, Miami would have been the only thing you wanted to go the other way at that point. So, at that point, the Bills' playoff odds are they're high.
93-94%.
Yeah, 93-94. So taking a look, too, I mean, the Bills' AFC East odds, piggybacking on that, there's still a high chance for that as well. If Miami drops another game and the Bills win, there's a very doable scenario there, and the Bills then would be the 2 seed. So there are a lot of avenues for the Bills to actually make it and go from there. So
yeah, it was a good week from, other than obviously the division, but it was a good week for them to get into the playoffs, and it was a good week for seeding.
Yes.
Because as you allude to, that Kansas City has kind of worked themselves out of not even the 1 seed, but the 2 seed as well, because the only way they get into the 2 seed now is if Buffalo loses out and Miami loses next week.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, Miami has to lose out, and I messed it up. Miami has to lose out to go 11-6. They had to win out to go 11-6, and they need Buffalo to lose to New England and beat Miami to go 10-7. And at that point, they'd have the tiebreaker over Miami at 11-6. That's the only scenario where the Chiefs
have the 2 seed.
have the 2 seed. So yeah. I mean,
everything's kind of looking up for the Bills. Doom and gloom. I remember a couple episodes were titled a couple weeks ago, and we are in a completely different scenario now.
Win out and Miami loses out into the 2, which is kind of just a weird way to end the season. But
yeah.
Here we are. So on number 3.
Yes, sir.
Allen comes up huge again. I think there's been multiple times throughout the season where, the Jets game, the Broncos game, even the Pats game, where I know those are losses, but Josh hasn't played his best football, but then in the biggest moments of the game, he comes through.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think he was peak Josh on Saturday. I know the stats. I mean, high QBR, over 100 pass rating. The 1 interception was just a poor. I don't know if decision is the right word, other than it was maybe a poor mechanics on the throw. I think he had a little bit more time to set his feet and throw it, and not underthrow him.
Right. Collinsworth even alluded to that on the broadcast.
But even if I think he was off a little bit in the beginning of the game, and Shakir bailed him out on that one catch. But I mean, the 2 deep bombs to Davis, the plays on the ground, being the goal line back, the plays on the third downs and the final drive. So he came up big again. I think for me with this offense, it's just going to come down to Josh throwing the ball 21 times and James Cook running the ball 20 times. I just don't think a healthy split. They ran the ball actually. I'm taking out Josh. Lenny had 5 carries as well.
Yeah, we saw his debut. That's
right. I don't know. I just think it's a situation where I think, they grounded and pounded Dallas, and I think it's good that they can find that to win. But I think they leaned a little bit. I think Joe Brady leaned a little bit too heavy into the running game a little bit, and especially early down runs. Especially those first down runs, just felt like they kept getting in 2nd and 8 and 2nd and 9 because they weren't getting success on those. And I think that would be my complaint of the game is that I think they should have had more Josh Allen and a little bit less James Cook in this game.
Right, and I think they were coming off the high of James Cook against Dallas last week, basically curb stomping them himself. So I think you wanted to see if that was going to work against the Chargers, and at first you saw that was not going to be how this game was going to be won. So that's kind of where that came from there. But they did adjust in the second half, like you said, and Allen making those big plays. He's like that toxic ex, right? He blows your mind, rocks your world, but then he can also just turn his back on you and do some crazy things, right? So I feel like it's a little mix of both, but more times than not, that guy breathes Buffalo. He is the reason they're in these situations, and he proves it. Makes those big plays to Gabe Davis, rushes it up the middle, shows the physicality, and he's the first player in NFL history to record 40-plus touchdowns in 4 consecutive seasons after this game. You know what I mean? Like, that's huge. Like, he's the man.
He is the man.
Mm-hmm.
On to number 4, where this guy's also could be considered he's the man.
He's in the man conversation?
Mm-hmm. It is him.
Oh, yeah. Look at that picture. If you're watching on YouTube, on anywhere we're streaming, this is awesome.
Again, I don't think we don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but, Ed having a big year. I think he's up to 8.5 sacks or something like that now.
Yeah, career season high.
And, to basically get the big play to win the game. I should say win the game, but seal the game at the end there. He's just having a big year, and in the biggest moments, it seems like they could count. He's kind of developed into that closer kind of gene that they thought they were going to get from Von Miller. So, really happy with his play this entire season. And, really another dominant performance in the middle of that defense. Yeah.
I just have to say, Who called Ed Oliver breaking out this season for the Bills? I think there's a podcast, that's pretty solid on these predictions this year. I feel like in the beginning of the season we said Ed was going to ride that horse all the way all across the field there, and he has been. Extended his career high to 8.5 sacks. He's been an absolute monger in the backfield. So keep doing what you're doing, Ed. You're a big reason the defense is where it is, even with all these injuries. So I have nothing more to say than that. He is definitely in the man conversation for sure.
And then finally, a little bit of a lower take, but I think people will agree with this one.
Oh boy, here we go.
Puna deserves a game day spot, roster spot. I think it was silly. I think Tim Sullivan played that bad on Saturday. But I just think it's silly that Puna Ford has been a healthy scratch pretty much for the past 2 months. I think he deserves to get playing time, and he played very well Saturday, last game, and I just believe their best core is him, Puna, Leval, Joseph, Ed Oliver, and if they get Daquan back. If not Daquan, then Tim Settle. So I think Puna Ford deserves to be getting consistent playing time and being active on game days.
Yeah, that D line you just described all the way, that would have me quaking in my boots if I was on the offensive line. You got Daquan back, and then you've got Puna, Joseph, and Ed Oliver. Listen, Puna definitely deserves an active game day spot. He proved that against the Chargers. He's proven it other times in the season as well. When they've given him the opportunities, he's played well. So, and like you said, Tim Settle didn't play that bad. It's not necessarily a hit on him. It's just Puna Ford's really been. Yeah. He had a great game.
So that ends the down 5. I know we're going to go into question of the day in a second, but just briefly before we get into that, I feel like Josh's MVP chances kind of increased, kind of didn't. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
It's a little weird.
Because I think Purdy literally threw himself out of the race.
Yes, he did. Very much so.
I think Tyreek's injuries, again, anything can happen in the last 2 weeks. I'm just taking realistically, I think Tyreek had to get to 2,000 and him, or at least break Megatron's record. And it's looking like he's not going to be able to do that. Again, hopefully he doesn't, because if he does, then he probably went off against the Bills.
That would be an indicator. Yeah, that'd be rough.
That would be rough. I think it's going to become an interesting debate. Obviously, it matters how the season ends. I think if the Bills win their 2 games, I think Josh won't be denied. I don't know. I think it's become a little bit more interesting about how you view what MVP is.
It very much so has, yeah.
As a person that picked Lamar Jackson as the preseason MVP, I'm kind of conflicted.
You patting yourself on the back though. That's a pretty good pick.
A little bit.
He's had a great season.
I think we talked about it in the betting on the Bills when we did it. I think he was 18 to 1. Man, that would have been a sick payday. But obviously Mahomes has played himself out of the race.
Yes. Especially with the temper tantrums on the sideline as well. Yeah. That doesn't help.
I think I know Dak's had a really good statistical season, but I think the boys now losing 2 straight games to the Bills and Dolphins, and now obviously he has a big game against the Lions, so I guess we'll see with that. But I think realistically, them most likely not winning the division. Yeah. I know I'm going to say, I think if the Bills go 11-6 and not win the division, I still think Josh has a good chance.
For sure.
I think Dak kind of lost out because of that. But yeah, I think it's really going to come down to Lamar and if Josh wins his last 2. If Josh doesn't win his last 2, I think it's probably going to go to Lamar. But I think C-Mac deserves some consideration. I just think it's going to be really hard to give it to a non-quarterback, which is unfortunate because he and Tyreek are having a really good year, and they're probably, if you want to say the most deserving, it's probably those 2. But
right,
it's just kind of a quarterback award, and
well, that's why they have Offensive Player of the Year at the end of the day. Sure, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of
absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of why they split it like that. But you're right, it is a quarterback award, and at the end of the day, I think a lot of people realize that. Even the players do. If the Bills make the playoffs after being ruled out at 6-6 at 500 a couple weeks ago, pretty much. Josh Allen has to be in the conversation.
Sure, I think if they win the next 2 games, Josh is easily going to get votes.
Oh, for sure.
He won't be Russell Wilson and never get an MVP vote. Remember that was always talked about with Russ Cook never voted for the MVP. But yeah. I think Josh will get some votes. It's just I just hope it doesn't become listen, this isn't a knock on Lamar. I just think the Ravens defense has been elite all year, and I think the stats have to mean for some stuff. I do agree that from the perspective of, I think if you watched the Niners game, just his ability to get defenses so conflicted and his playing. I mean, he's right up there, Josh, in total yards. So that's why I always get like the total touchdown things is a little like, Josh has probably been a better passer, better goal line running back, but Lamar's probably been it's so close between those 2. Where
there's trade-offs between the 2 of them.
I just think statistically, the problem is for Lamar is that it's not even that he's so far away from Allen per se. It's that he's so far away from past MVPs, including his own season, where it just would be kind of like, I just think you set yourself up for, a problem down the road if you end up giving a guy that probably doesn't have the stats but has the wins. Because then what's the reason? What's the point of playing the games per se if you're just going to give it to the quarterback on the number one team in the league?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it can't be for the team that's going to the Super Bowl. It can for sure if that quarterback's playing like the best.
Well,
quarterback.
they vote after the season,
right? But that's what I'm saying. Like it's got to be if the guy who's out in the first round, even in the wild card, right?
They don't vote on it. They vote on it after week 18.
Oh, after week 18.
They do not. The playoffs. They don't. It's a regular season award.
Here's the thing. Here's what I'm trying to say. Even if the Bills are the 6th seed going into the playoffs, right? And the Ravens are the 1 seed, at the end of the season, the seeding shouldn't necessarily, like you said, count towards the vote for the single player. You know what I mean? Do you think?
Yes,
do you think?
Wins should matter. Like, I think if your team.
But are wins a quarterback stat to matter?
Not absolutely, but I think Lamar and Josh are both so important to their offense. They're one-man offenses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the Josh and Lamar, you could probably put in any situation and get pretty good offensive production because they're just so good on the ground and obviously through the air as well. So I get what you're saying. I think wins do matter though. I think you have to put. I just think if Josh gets to 11 is 11. Like if you know what I mean, like it's a difference between if we're arguing a guy that may have the statistical advantage, but his team went 9-8. You know what I mean, and the other team won 13-4. Like 4 wins, that's a pretty big. But if you guys are both double digits, both up there, Lamar might get to 13, Josh gets to 11. Like I think that's a close enough gap where.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying.
But
yeah.
I'm saying it from a perspective, wins matter. I mean,
if they get in at 9-8 versus.
It's the reason why. I mean, it's not the best argument because he just absolutely crapped the bed. But like Mahomes, if they would have won their last 3 games and went 12-5, like I don't know if he would have won MVP, but like he would at least had an argument because of how his team has played. Now that he played awful on yesterday, so like he has no chance.
That was rough. Yeah.
But wins have to matter at some point. But I think for the MVP, it's really who had the best statistical season and who's the most valuable player. I think you can make a case that's Lamar. Like that's why I always say like with Purdy and Tua, like it's interesting. Like Purdy and Tua, like I'm sorry, but like the stats are amazing, but like we just saw it. Like
yeah,
Tua less than Purdy. I think Purdy's more of a not as good as Tua, but like
Tua's shown promise. Yeah,
there you see it, but you see it with that. So yesterday, so I think stats matter, eye test matters, wins matter, and I think Josh could have a potential to have kind of all 3.
Yeah, if
they win out, I think Lamar really has everything except maybe the bona fide MVP stats. So I don't know. It's gonna be two 2018 quarterbacks going back and forth.
Yeah, I mean that draft class continues to kind of show out too. Baker Mayfield put on a performance against the Jags and helped us out nice. Too. So yeah. Listen, it's gonna be interesting seeing the MVP race come down to a close here because depending on what situations happen where, things can get interesting, I think. And
real chance for Josh, but
there is. What do you think?
Let's go to the question of the day.
There we go.
Worry meter for Diggs' low usage. So I think the question, I don't think Diggs' usage is low. I think it's more of his effectiveness, his efficiency, as one would say. He's still getting the targets. Maybe just not having the production. Still led the team with 8 targets on Saturday. I know the Cowboys game, I believe he had 11. That might be wrong, but 11 probably wrong. He's consistently getting it. It's just like his catch percentage has gone down. So I think that's the greater concern to me than his usage. But for me, for the meter, I would put it at a 6, 7. I'm definitely concerned because I think this passing game kind of goes where Stephon Diggs goes a little bit. They definitely have a ceiling if he doesn't play his best or if he's banged up, obviously with that neck injury potentially. So definitely a little bit concerned just via the injuries. And I just think, again, my slight complaint with Joe Brady has been I think I'm all for running the ball and doing what's working. I didn't feel like they ran the ball particularly well against the Chargers. I know they had the one drive, the second touchdown drive where they ran the ball really well. I just didn't think they ran the ball very well at all in the second half. And I know you don't want to be a consistent drop back team. Anyone wants to be, but I mean when you have Josh Allen, it mitigates that factor. So
Yeah.
if I was that would be my one complaint is I think they need to be slightly more, get the passing rate up a little bit more than the rush rate.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you on that. I think, again, it's Joe Brady's just getting his feet wet this season. Not that that's an excuse, but I feel like the longer it goes on, the more involved he'll get in his decision-making, getting the pass game going. I'd have it at a 5-6, around the same as you, honestly. Diggs comes up big in certain situations, right? He had a couple big catches in the Chargers game that moved the chains. So, they were really only using him in the screen game at first since Joe Brady's taken over. I've noticed that. And even when Dorsey was around, they were doing that, but more frequently now. But yeah, they definitely need to utilize him more in the passing game and just get the passing reps up in general under Joe.
I mean, I think from my perspective, being a little bit more concerned, I think it's the job of the offensive coordinator and the quarterback to get, well, the offensive coordinator, but through passing the quarterback, is to get the best players with the ball in their hands. And
yeah,
Stephon Diggs is their best player on offense, not Josh Allen. And it's been under Joe Brady, other than really the Eagles game, it's kind of been, we're at a trend here a little bit now. What was that, 5 games now? Because they were 5-5. Yep.
Yeah.
So five games now of Joe Brady, and we're at a little bit of a trend where Diggs' production has really fallen off a little bit. So again, I think he's getting nagged by some kind of injury, but at the same time, I would like to be a little bit more efficient when targeting Stephon Diggs, because he's one of the best receivers in the game, and he really is the engine that makes this offense go when he's on. It's very hard to stop this passing attack.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm right there with you on that. And, like you said, that nagging injury, we don't know necessarily. That could be doing something, but you never know in these situations. And at the end of the day, he's Stephon Diggs. And, looking back, people say, he could be double covered, whatnot. And he was in 2020 when he really broke out and came here with Josh, or 2021, whatever that might be. I forget. And they still worked him into the offense. So I think it'll get better and better as time goes on, though. I'm not necessarily spazzing out quite yet, but if we get into next season and we're like, all right, Diggs has no production to start in the first 5 games, then we have a problem,
Yeah,
so
sure.
Yeah. Then the worry meter might go up to a 9-10, I would say. Then it's like, all right, we got to figure something out here. But I think time for the Sabres?
Time for the Sabres.
The consistently inconsistent Sabres?
You gotta get a t-shirt for that. But let's just go right into the Dom. Well, I don't even know what to call it, but we're just gonna do the Dom.
The Sabres, Dom, whatever.
Sabres, Dom version.
I guess the whatever 3, because it's just so, like, I don't know. Like, it's,
Yeah.
I don't know if I even, like, it's just, I don't know. Just roll it.
Oh, what a weird team. But here we go. Number 1. Thank you. Quinn is back. Our man Jack Quinn. Love Jack Quinn.
Yes.
We're a big Jack Quinn.
We saw his first game.
Nearly saw his first career goal.
Nearly.
We are part of the Quinn Hive for sure. Glad to see him back. Looked pretty healthy. I think he's still kind of getting his legs per se, but also scored a nice goal already. So nice to get him back. I just think he adds so much to this team, just lineup flexibility, and also I just think he's one of the better players on their team. So I think that helps anytime you get one of your better players back. So it's nice to have the return of the Quinner.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you said, nearly saw his first career goal. So that's he's a guy we've been following for a little bit here. So yeah, he does add a ton. He's very versatile on the ice and very physical player. It's nice to see him back out there. We've been hyping him up coming back the whole season. It's been a rough season, iffy season so far. So it's nice to have a positive to talk about here coming into this week's edition. But listen, I think truthfully with Jack Quinn back, you got to go back to that offense you had last year, and Granato even made a mention of that being we might have to, go back to that high-flying, fast-paced offense that we were running last year. So with Jack Quinn back, though, that's plausible, I think. I think you can start getting back to that.
I think they're realizing that their best version of themselves is just playing free, kind of
street hockey.
No rules, kind of up and down off the rush. You're going to give some stuff back up the rush, but that's their best version of these Buffalo Sabres is playing that style, and
not necessarily the smash mouth hockey team.
Yeah, hopefully they get back into that, because that was some fun hockey to watch. But on number 2, I think we're starting to get into the start of the Bills special teams and the Sabres goalies we just never talk about anymore because the goalies are so frustrating. Levi craps the bed against I was gonna say Jacksonville. Holy cow, the Blue Jackets. And then UPL comes in, doesn't do much better. Levi have a so-so kind of game against. I mean, they scored 9 goals against the Leafs.
Yeah.
But he was all right. And then the Rangers just it wasn't all on UPL, but just horrendous goaltending in overtime. I mean, you saw Vesna winning goaltender and Shesterkin make the big saves, and then on a simple going around the net, UPL gets faked out and leaves the net wide open. It's the difference between winning 2 points and 1 point, and goalies matter, and it's frustrating. I think as we alluded to, I think we're going to get back into the high-flying offense, and they need their goalies to be consistent and
help that defense out.
They're going to have to get to bail out the team, and
Yeah.
I have very little confidence that that's going to happen other than maybe Levi.
Yeah. I mean, Levi's been the most consistent, if that's a word we can even use. I don't
know. I don't think anyone's really been consistent.
No, but if we had to put a
I
consistency
wouldn't even put it on
meter-
Levi. I would put it on probably UPL, which has probably been the most consistent. But
Right, but-
even he's now starting to look a little down.
You get the highs of UPL and the lows of UPL, and that's the thing. It's just you don't have the one thing that we say we would have liked to see in the offseason is Adams go after a veteran goaltender because we would be in a very different situation right now, I personally think. Because now the entire franchise rests on a 21-year-old shoulders who has not seen a lot of NHL time, and he's basically just being tossed right into the open flame in the beginning of the season and now. So, and then you're with Levi and Comrie.
I disagree. I disagree. I don't think this season would have changed that much if they got a veteran goaltender.
No?
From the perspective of this, I think they would be better off having a stable goaltender, veteran goaltender for the room. Kind of like how you get that veteran quarterback in when you have a rookie quarterback.
Right.
I know they try to replicate that a little bit with having just Craig Anderson stay in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the reason why they're 14-17-4 is because of goaltending. Like they've kind of gotten league average goaltending, maybe slightly below now.
Right.
They're 14-17-4 because their power play has been awful and their offense is like completely crap the bed.
Right.
But I think a veteran goalie could help, and I think maybe if they're gonna make the stretch run, it would be nice to have a veteran goalie, because then you would have someone to rely on. They don't really have that reliability factor, which is definitely true. I don't believe that the reason they're in goalies, the goaltending really isn't in probably my top 3 reasons why the Sabres are where they are in the standings. Like it's the power play, it's the offense, it's the inconsistency of the star players, it's the head scratching lineup decisions. Like goalies maybe 5.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that. 100% is definitely not on the goalie, but like you said,
Not saying a veteran wouldn't help, but yeah.
Yeah, right. A veteran being in the room might be able the reliability factor, I'm going to use that because that's huge, and you don't have that. You're going from inconsistent to inconsistent. You don't have that reliable goaltender that could at least, I don't know, just be a wall for a game.
You don't know what you're going to get. Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
So exactly. You don't know what you're getting. That's the thing.
But on to number 3.
Oh, God.
Best forward lines of the year, Donnie G. I mean, listen, I think we alluded to this throughout this talk, but I think having Quinn back, having Tuck back, having Thompson back, having Skinner back is massive because you get your Tuck, Thompson, Skinner line, you get the kids line of Peterka, Cousins, Quinn, you get the dog line now of Greenway, Middlestat, Benson. That's a nice top 9. Like it is. That's a solid top 9. Also, the way that Kyle Oposo kind of all year we've been trashing him has really played really well.
He has. Scored quite a bit.
Krebs has kind of been whatever, but the fourth line's kind of whatever. But like Oposo's playing nice. I would like to see Eric Robinson be in instead of Victor Olofsson. I know maybe they're trying to find a way to buck Olofsson's trade value, but if Olofsson's not going to be on the power play, like he doesn't really add anything to the team. So I would like to see Eric Robinson kind of take that spot and have Robinson, Krebs, Oposo as the fourth line. And when Gergensen comes back, I don't really know what they do because I thought it was, it's Gergensen and Oposo that are just like the boat anchors. But now ever since Gergensen's left Oposo's played really well. So it's kind of like maybe it was Gergensen's. I don't know. I don't truly know what to think right now about what to do with Semnis Gergensen's because ever since he left, those I mean, Oposos has played a lot better, and
He has.
now it's kind of like, are we gonna put? I mean, you can't really scratch an assistant captain, I don't think, but I don't know. It's a weird situation with that.
It is. I 100%. I was going to say the same thing. Gergensen's going has just unlocked some feature in Okposo that we have never seen. I don't really understand it. Like you said, the thing is, now you've got your guys back, like Quinn, the Tuck. Oh my God, I just said all of their names together. Tuck, and Thompson, and Tuck. Thompson, Tuck, and Skinner line. That's back. You got the kid line, the Lost Boys line, as we proclaim them. And then you have, Greenway, the powerhouse line that. Like that top 9, if you were playing that style of offense that we alluded to a little bit ago here, I think you'd be scoring goals left and right. And yeah, you'd be giving up goals too with the goaltending we have in the defense, but you'd be outscoring, I think, the competition for sure.
Yeah, I again, that's a solid top 9. It's also a top 9 that 8 of the 9 are under contract for next year, I believe. The only one that isn't is Milstad, and he's a restricted free agent, so yeah, it's a nice foundation. It also leads to the producer keeps making the point of like all these prospects don't really know where they're gonna fit in, but I guess that's a conversation for another pod, another day. But really liking. Listen, the last 2 games they got embarrassed at home by the Blue Jackets. The Fire Downey chance. Hopefully maybe that was a turning point for them. Had a dominant performance against the Leafs. Had a solid showing. I mean, the Rangers. Listen, the Rangers I think are still the number 1 team in terms of points in the National Hockey League, and to go on the road is no small feat, especially trailing for many portions of that game.
No, and you come out with a point.
It's just frustrating because it felt like they're actually number 2 now in the NHL, but they have 3 games in hand on Vancouver with 2 points behind. So I would still say the number 1 team in that hockey, but it's frustrating because you get the power play at the end of regulation. Again, you don't execute, you take a penalty, and you kill the penalty. So it's like, okay, now we're on normal hockey overtime, and just poor goaltending against great, fantastic, elite goaltending is just it's a tough way to lose out of a point. But hopefully they can go on a little bit of a run here. They definitely, I mean, not hopefully, they need to go on a little bit of a run here. Like it's starting to become, it's going to become. I mean, they already need to be at a very high point pace. I think of 105 or some portion like that throughout the last half of the year. And listen, they're getting healthy at the right time, so hopefully they get Levi and UPL both playing high at the same time. Yep. They could kind of get that consistent goaltending, but
everything contributes all at once, hopefully, and they unlock something that's been locked away.
They have 3 games left in the 2023 calendar year. They are against Boston on Wednesday. On Saturday, they are against Columbus, and then they are in Ottawa for the 31st. So back-to-back last 2 days of the year, two games. So hopefully they can get a little bit of a roll. Columbus just whooped them, so I was gonna say that should be 2 points, but who knows? Ottawa's behind them in the standings. Obviously, Boston's a tough task for sure, but hopefully they 4 days of rest kind of get the legs going for the second half of the year.
Yeah, I think they can. Again, if you go back to that offense and looking at these opponents, you're in one of the more competitive divisions in hockey, right? That's always a tough task. And you're going to Boston. Or no, Boston's coming here. Sorry, I forget what you said. Boston's coming here. So hopefully the home crowd can do something against them, but we'll see what happens there. And we're closing out the 2023 year. It's the last pod technically. No, Friday's the 30th, I think, right? So we'll do betting on the Bills before the year's over.
Yes.
But, last Sabres talk of 2023 right now. So
yes,
this is big stuff happening here. So, but what do you think they're going to go in those 3 games?
I don't know. Me, I hate doing the record stuff.
I know.
Hopefully 2.
I just have to ask.
Hopefully 4 to 6. Hopefully 4 points out of 6.
Yes.
I think this rest was big to get Skinner, Thompson, and Tuck. I know, but to get those 3 guys kind of who were maybe a little bit banged up, kind of a little bit like Diggs, to get those guys kind of back, maybe closer to 100%, I think will be big. So hopeful for that. And it was fun talking about the Sabres for the 23 calendar year.
Maybe not
a lot of
towards
ups.
the tail end. Yeah, there's a lot of ups and downs.
A lot of ups, lots and downs.
Kind of consistently inconsistent like the team, honestly, I would say.
Yeah. But hopeful to get all your guys' thoughts and prayers for my fantasy championship this week.
Me as well. We're both in a fantasy championship.
Currently, I looked at it and I'm a 16-point favorite, but I don't know how accurate those numbers are, but
I'm a 1-point favorite.
Okay.
So it's gonna
Well,
come
you
down
gotta
to the
nail-
end here.
I still think I got a nail biter. Mark, the defending champions in the final against me, we split. So we had the two best teams all year, split in the regular season, both advanced in the semifinals after their bye. So it was the final that everyone wanted, and we got it. So
It's happening. Yeah, it's happening. So without further ado, it's gonna do it for this edition of the Buffalonian podcast. I'm Joe Callie. As always, I'm joined by Dom Loss, and thank you to our producer Mooch for everything you do before, during, and after the show. Hope everyone had a happy holiday out there. We will see you one more time in 2023, but if we don't catch you, if you don't catch us before, have a happy new year. We'll catch you in 2024. And Dom, how do you always end these, buddy?
go Bills, baby.
Go Bills.